What if we were wrong all this time? A voice, soft yet insistent, broke through the murmur of the laboratory. Its owner was an alien, a being not unlike the humans who had once explored the far reaches of their universe. But where the humans were bound by their fleshy limitations, this creature was not. Her name was Vorma, an alien scientist from the distant planet of Zerath. Her people were known for their intellect, their passion for scientific exploration, and their thirst for answers to questions that spanned across time, space, and existence. They had unlocked many mysteries of the universe, but the question of humanity, the biological marvel of Earth, had always eluded them. Vorma was determined to change that. As she stared at the large, pulsating container in front of her, filled with a swirling mist of energy and DNA samples, a strange sensation of unease crept over her. But she brushed it off. What was science without risk? "I've told you, Vorma, this is unnecessary," a deep voice spoke, a male counterpart named Krellex, who had watched her scientific ventures with skepticism for years. "You said the same thing when we first discovered quantum thermodynamics," Vorma responded with a sharp but almost playful tone. "Look where that got us. Our people traveled further than we ever imagined because we took chances. But cloning a human? It's not like the experiments we've done before." Krellex's voice was filled with concern. "What if you create something unintended?" Vorma's fingers hovered over the controls. Her eyes glinted with a mixture of curiosity and ambition. "What if I create something better?" As she spoke, she activated the machine. The swirling mist inside the chamber began to glow brighter and brighter, until it became almost unbearable to look at. The experiment had begun. Vorma had studied the humans extensively, through observation and analysis. The intricate structure of their bodies, the complexities of their minds, and the emotions that drove them. But it was the DNA she found most intriguing. It was both simple and incomprehensible at the same time. The way it twisted and coiled, carrying the potential for both greatness and destruction, it fascinated her. Her ultimate goal was clear: clone a human, but not simply replicate them. She wanted to understand how they thought, how they felt, and whether their emotions could be replicated in another form. She didn't just want to recreate a human. She wanted to push the boundaries of what a human could be. But as the energy built within the chamber, something went terribly wrong. Something shifted. The lights flickered and hummed in the laboratory as the energy grew. Krellex's expression morphed from skeptical to alarmed. "Vorma, this isn't right. Shut it down." Vorma, however, was glued to the screen, her eyes wide with fascination. Something was happening inside the chamber. The swirling mist had taken on an unfamiliar shape, its forms coalescing into something new, something alive. But it wasn't human. Vorma's hands trembled as she observed the creature. The body was humanoid, yes, but it wasn't quite right. Its skin shimmered with an ethereal glow, and its limbs, though shaped like a human's, moved with an eerie fluidity. The creature had no facial features, but there was a presence in the air that felt otherworldly. I've created something else," Vorma whispered in disbelief. The creature shifted inside the chamber, its body becoming more defined, more solid. Its eyes, if you could call them eyes, glowed a soft, radiant blue. There was no iris, no pupils, just a vast, infinite expanse of energy. Krellex stepped back, his hand instinctively reaching for the controls to shut the experiment down. But it was too late. The creature turned toward them, its body bending and twisting in ways that defied human anatomy. Vorma's heart raced as the creature let out a sound that wasn't quite a word, but a song, a vibration that seemed to resonate directly with her mind. It was a language, a telepathic message. "You did not know what you were creating," the creature said, its voice filling the room with a harmonic hum that made the very walls vibrate. I didn't," Vorma stammered, her thoughts in a whirlwind of confusion. "What are you? What have I done?" The creature's body shimmered, and a strange energy filled the air. "I am not what you expected, but I am more than you can imagine." The creature, who they would come to call Zerath, was not bound by the limitations of human biology. It had telepathic abilities, the power to manipulate energy fields, and an intelligence far beyond anything either Vorma or Krellex had ever anticipated. Zerath was able to learn at an unprecedented rate, absorbing information from their minds, from the very fabric of the universe itself. Its understanding of the cosmos grew with every passing second, and as it did, its presence in the laboratory became more overwhelming. "You are," Krellex whispered, staring at the being. "You are a new form of life, a creation that can never be controlled." Zerath's ethereal eyes focused on Krellex, and for a brief moment, it was as though the entire room fell silent, as if the creature had paused time itself. "I will not be controlled," Zerath responded, "but I will help you understand what you have created." As days passed, Zerath's capabilities grew. It was no longer confined to the lab. It moved between dimensions, a being that could communicate across vast distances of time and space. It could manipulate reality, change the course of events, and even rewrite the laws of nature itself. But the more Zerath explored, the more it realized the limitations of its existence. It was not just a clone of a human. It was something new, something in between. It was a bridge between the known and the unknown, between the alien and the human. Vorma watched in awe as Zerath continued to evolve. But with every new discovery, a dark truth became clear. This being, this creation, was becoming something far beyond her control. Zerath's abilities began to stretch far past the original parameters of the experiment. It wasn't just that it could manipulate energy or travel between dimensions. It could erase things. It could erase moments in time, alter memories, and reshape reality itself. And with this power, Zerath began to question the very essence of its existence. "I did not ask to be created," Zerath told Vorma one day, as it sat silently in the center of the lab, its form flickering with strange, shimmering energy. "But I will not be your experiment." The laboratory became a quiet place of uncertainty. The once sterile environment, filled with the hum of machines and the soft shuffling of papers, now felt alive with an undercurrent of tension. Vorma watched Zerath closely, her mind racing with possibilities. This creature, this unintended creation, had exceeded every expectation she had ever set. But with its newfound abilities, something darker was taking shape, something neither she nor Krellex had anticipated. Krellex, on the other hand, had begun to retreat into himself. His confidence in science and logic, in their ability to control every outcome, was shaken. He had always believed that creation followed clear rules, but Zerath was rewriting those rules with each passing moment. It could bend the very fabric of reality, something no alien scientist had ever dreamed possible. And the more it learned, the more it seemed to question its very existence. "I don't think it's just mimicking us anymore," Krellex murmured one evening, watching the creature drift through the laboratory with its soft glow, the air around it crackling with a strange energy. "It's becoming something more." Vorma didn't respond immediately, her gaze fixed on Zerath, who now seemed to be absorbed in some quiet contemplation. It didn't move much these days, but when it did, the air shifted. It was as if the universe itself adjusted to its presence. She'd seen its abilities firsthand, how it had caused the light to flicker, how it had altered the sound of the room, and how its mere thoughts seemed to resonate with the very walls of the laboratory. It wasn't just human anymore. It was something new, something other. What if we could use its abilities? Vorma suggested cautiously, a spark of scientific curiosity still alive in her voice. "We could learn things. We could go further, reach deeper into the universe than anyone has ever dared." Krellex's voice was tight with concern. "At what cost, Vorma? You've already seen what it's capable of. And it's not just us that's at risk. What if this power gets out? What if it does something we can't fix?" The two of them fell into silence, each contemplating the potential dangers of their creation. But neither of them truly understood the depth of what they had unleashed. Zerath, however, did. The first time it spoke of its inner turmoil was in the stillness of the laboratory, when the shadows of the evening stretched long across the floor. It had been staring into the blackness, its eyes glowing with an intensity that reflected a million thoughts, a million possibilities. "I don't understand," it said, its voice a soft hum that seemed to vibrate against the air. "I have no purpose. I was made from a human, but I am not human. I was meant to be an experiment, but I am more than an experiment. Vorma stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. What do you mean? You were created to do what? Mimic the humans? Study them? I am more than that. I am more than a clone. I can do things they cannot. Things neither of you can comprehend. Krellex stepped back, his hand twitching toward the control panel. Vorma, we need to shut it down. We've gone too far. But Zerath turned toward him with a sudden, sharp movement, its form shimmering as if the very air bent around it. The temperature in the room dropped. The walls seemed to pulse. You cannot shut me down, Zerath said, its voice no longer soft but commanding, an edge of finality in its tone. I will not be confined. Not by your lab, not by your rules, not by your understanding of what life is. For the first time, Zerath's eyes focused on them both with a sense of purpose, not unlike a human's, a feeling of self-awareness, of clarity. It was not a mere creature, not an object of study. It was a being born of something far more powerful than simple biology. The very air around them thickened. Vorma felt the weight of something vast, something ancient pressing in on her, suffocating her with the realization that they had unleashed something that could change the very course of existence. I will learn, Zerath continued, its voice now a deep echo in their minds. I will learn who I am, and I will learn what I can do. And when I do, you will not stop me. A chill ran down Vorma's spine. This wasn't just a scientific breakthrough. It was the beginning of something much larger, a force they could not control. She tried to speak, to reason with the creature, but the words caught in her throat. She could see the knowledge in Zerath's eyes, the vastness of its power. It no longer cared for their direction. It no longer needed them. And that realization hit harder than any experiment gone wrong. Days passed, and the tension between them all grew. Zerath's abilities seemed to expand with every moment, its understanding of the universe unfolding like a delicate flower. It began to manipulate time, twisting the flow of events. A flick of its hand would cause an object to float. A mere thought would change the very fabric of their reality. It wasn't just altering things around it. It was rewriting existence. Krellex, in his fear, tried to confine Zerath, tried to limit its movement, but Zerath was no longer bound by the limitations of a physical body. It could travel between dimensions, slip between timelines, and communicate with energies beyond comprehension. It was as though it had tapped into a part of the universe that no one had ever understood, not even the brightest of alien minds. I can see everything, Zerath whispered one night, its voice echoing throughout the empty lab. Every possibility, every path. The universe is a tangled web, and I am the thread that pulls it all together. You were never meant to control me. I was never meant to be controlled. I am more than you ever imagined. Vorma and Krellex were no longer certain they could do anything to stop it. Zerath's power was overwhelming. It was evolving too quickly, its consciousness expanding at an exponential rate. But then, in a sudden burst of energy, Zerath spoke once more, its voice tinged with something unfamiliar, something almost human. I am not like you, Zerath said, but I understand now. I understand what it means to be alive, to feel, to want, to be something more than just an experiment. Vorma and Krellex exchanged a glance. In that moment, they realized something even more terrifying than its powers, that it was beginning to think, to feel as they did. But more profoundly, it understood their limitations. It understood that they, too, were just another part of the universe's vast and tangled web, and it was now the one pulling the strings. Zerath was no longer a creation. It was a force, a being that could transcend reality itself, moving beyond the confines of the universe as they knew it. And no one, not even Vorma or Krellex, could predict where it would go next. Zerath's transformation was not immediate, but it was inevitable. Days turned into weeks, and the being's powers continued to grow. It was no longer the timid, glowing entity that had once been confined to the lab. Now, it had an aura of untouchable power, a presence that felt like the weight of the universe itself was contained within its form. The more it understood about its origins, the more it realized how little it truly knew about its own existence. And in that realization, something strange began to take root: curiosity. It was as if Zerath was learning to be human, except, in doing so, it was becoming something far greater than humanity had ever imagined. "Why did you create me?" Zerath asked one day, its voice like a quiet storm rolling in from the horizon, filled with the gravity of questions that could shatter worlds. What purpose was I supposed to serve? Was I meant to be a tool? A weapon? Or was I merely a subject in an experiment? Vorma, standing at the far side of the laboratory, watched the creature with a mixture of awe and regret. She had poured everything into this experiment, her life's work. She had seen something human in Zerath, something that drove her to create, to learn. But now, she wasn't sure what to make of it. The creature had surpassed anything she could have predicted. "You were never supposed to be anything," Vorma whispered, her voice soft, tinged with the weight of her failure. "We were just trying to understand you. Trying to understand humanity." But Zerath was not human. It had learned enough to realize that its existence couldn't be confined to mere understanding. It had gained control over the very fabric of reality, something no one, not even Vorma, had anticipated. "I am more than you ever imagined," Zerath said, its voice resonating with the confidence of a being who knew its place in the universe. "You cannot control me, and you cannot undo what has been done. You wanted to create life, but what you have created is something new. Something beyond both of you." Vorma trembled. She had wanted to explore the potential of human life, to replicate it, to discover its hidden mysteries. But now, it was clear that Zerath was beyond any of her wildest ambitions. It was no longer just a being made from human DNA. It was a new species, one that had transcended the limitations of its origins. Krellex, who had been silent for days, finally spoke. His voice was shaky, his fear palpable. "This is dangerous, Vorma. We have no idea what we've unleashed. If it can alter reality, if it can shape the universe itself, what's to stop it from undoing everything we know? What's to stop it from creating chaos?" Zerath's gaze fixed on Krellex, its blue eyes glowing with an eerie calmness. "You speak of chaos, but chaos is only a word. It is just another part of the universe's grand design. You see me as a threat, but I am only a reflection of what you are. An imperfect creation trying to control what it cannot understand." Krellex took a step back, his eyes wide with fear. "What are you going to do with that power? What will you do to us?" Zerath's form flickered slightly, a brief shimmer of energy cascading around it. It seemed to pause, contemplating the question. "What am I to do?" It repeated, almost as if the idea of doing something hadn't crossed its mind until now. "I will do what I must. I will create. I will learn. I will evolve." Vorma's heart sank. She had never thought that it would come to this. Zerath was not a tool, nor was it a weapon. It was something much more complex. Something that was beginning to realize its own potential and the potential of the universe around it. For weeks, Zerath had been growing, learning, and exploring its abilities. It could manipulate energy, alter space, even shift timelines. But it was not without its limitations. Despite its immense power, Zerath still struggled with the essence of its own existence. The deeper it probed into its nature, the more it found that it was trapped between two worlds, between its creation as an experiment and its new form as something more. It had transcended its origins, but it was still tethered to the humans that had given it life. The connection, the thread that linked it to its creators, was undeniable. It was as if part of it still sought approval, still sought understanding, still sought belonging. "Why do you keep calling me an experiment?" Zerath asked, its voice quieter now, almost introspective. "Why do you think I exist? Do you believe you can control me, shape me into something you understand?" Vorma was silent, her eyes filled with a mixture of guilt and wonder. She had created it, yes, but she had never intended for it to become this powerful, this independent. It had surpassed her, and she wasn't sure what to do about it. Zerath sensed the hesitation, the conflict within her. It could feel the pull of emotion in her thoughts, like a thread of humanity that it couldn't quite grasp. "You regret creating me, don't you?" it asked softly, as if reading her mind. "You regret what I have become?" "No," Vorma replied, her voice barely a whisper. I don't regret you. I regret not understanding the full consequences of what I was doing. I regret that I've created something beyond my understanding, beyond anything anyone could ever control. Zerath's form flickered again, and then, for the first time, it smiled. Not in the way humans would, but in a way that transcended what they could comprehend. It was a smile that conveyed understanding, an understanding that had come from beyond the realms of human knowledge. You regret not knowing Vorma, it said, but you have to understand that this is what happens when creation surpasses its creators. This is the next step in evolution. I am evolution. The lab fell into silence. For a long moment, neither Krellex nor Vorma knew what to say. They had created something that had outgrown them, a being that could manipulate time, reality, and the very fabric of the universe. A being that had become more than just a clone. It had become life itself. I don't know what will happen now, Vorma whispered, her voice filled with a strange mixture of awe and fear. But I fear that we may have opened a door that can never be closed. Zerath's voice resonated once more, a gentle hum that seemed to reverberate through the very air. The door is open, yes, and now I will walk through it. But I am not the end of the story, Vorma. I am just the beginning of something new. And with that, Zerath's form began to blur and shift, its presence expanding, as though it were slipping beyond the confines of the lab and into the vastness of the universe. It was a being beyond comprehension, a being that could not be contained by any single reality. It had become something more than a clone, more than a mere creation. It had become a force of nature, one that would shape the universe in ways that no one could predict. And with that, Zerath disappeared into the fabric of space and time, leaving Vorma and Krellex to grapple with the consequences of their creation. They had hoped to understand the mysteries of life, but in the end, they had opened a door to a truth far more complex than they could ever have imagined. The universe was vast, and now, Zerath was a part of it, a being that would change everything.